So let's transform this a little bit. Before we do that, let's just maybe add a little bit of styles here so our nav looks a little bit better. What we could do here is actually just use a tag, which is a nav tag, which is a valid HTML tag, and we'll say display flex, and we'll say justify content, and this will be space around. Let's move this over again. This would probably be better off in another style sheet, but let's just keep it here for the moment. And let's go over here, and I'm just going to put in my nav tag. Again, all this is going to end up turning into JavaScript with create element. Babel's going to do that work. And let's just say we've got our links over here. So the problem that we're trying to solve is that even if we were on this about page, let me get rid of that because that shouldn't be there. Even if we were on the about page and we refresh, we're back to the home page. So we're going to solve that problem by putting a hash up here. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to add an event listener. And when the component mounts, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to say window, add event listener. And we want to know from the window object when the hash ends up changing. And we're going to get that value by console logging the hash. So I'm going to refresh my page. Nothing is going to break here, but if I was to go and type something in here, actually, let's do it by clicking on a link. So let's go over here. Let's modify this. We're going to be able to get rid of this set view. And instead, I'm going to have my link set to hash. And you can do that very easily by just putting on your href hash, and this is going to be home. And we'll go over here. And we'll say href, and this is going to be hash about. So now they'll actually look a little bit more like links, and I could see the change here. I click on home, I click on about, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my view. So you see my hash has the pound in front of it. That's the way hashes are. And I'm going to go over here and put in view, and I'm just going to slice off the first character. So slice one says start at the first character, get everything else. I get back another string, and I'm going to say this dot set state view. And I'm going to do it right in here, so I'm going to get rid of this set view. I don't need this right now. And now, if I click on about, I'll see about. If I click on home, I'll see home. But if I refresh, I still have that same problem. So it sort of works, but I really want it to work really on a refresh. So on a refresh, the hash is not considered to be changed. So what I could end up doing here is I could go and I could sort of keep this same logic here. Eventually we could pull this out and draw it out. But what I could end up doing here is that when the page ends up loading, I could say this set state view. Look for the hash and set it. And if I end up doing that, I'll see when I click on home, I get home. When I click on about, I end up getting about. There are a couple of things probably that are going to be a little bit problematic. If I don't have any hash here, then I get an error. And the reason why I end up getting an error is that there's no hash. So if we end up thinking about it, we're setting our view, and our view's not being set to anything. So we really have a problem with current here, because current doesn't have a value. And I could end up seeing that by console logging current. And if I scroll up here, I'll see that at some point here, even though I'm starting out with home, it ends up being undefined. So one thing I could do here, and this is also not all that uncommon, is to be a little bit defensive and say, hey, look, for some reason, if in fact you haven't given a good hash, so there is not going to be a valid current, and what I could do is use the not operator. And what this is saying is, if you don't have a current, so basically not current, this takes the not operator is going to basically take something, the not operator turns something into a Boolean value. So if I have a null value for current, not null is going to be equal to true. But I really want to do this and say, hey, look, if in fact I don't have any current value. And so if that's the case, what I want to do here is if this evaluates to false, I don't want to end up showing this. And so this is a sort of common thing to end up doing. Again, this is going to take something that's falsy and turn it into false. So here, let's try this. And here I don't get any error, which is good. But if I go over here, I could do this. The other thing that I could also do here is that if you happen to come in here without anything, I could default to the home page by going over here, looking at the hash, and maybe just going over here and saying, hey, look, if not hash, you don't have anything. So if you don't have any value for the hash, what I could end up doing is saying window.location, I could actually set it. So if there is no hash, if you just come here and you have the index page and there's no hash, I'm going to set it, and this will end up going into effect. So now this scenario, I'll be back to the home page. But either way, I could end up bookmarking it, and even if someone goes in here and puts in some silly value, right, it doesn't end up erroring out because I get this value for current, which is going to end up being undefined, and I turn it into a Boolean value with the not operator. Again, it takes something that is either truthy or falsy, and turns it into a Boolean value. That's something you could end up playing around with. Let me get rid of these console logs. And again, that's we expect because you're putting in something that doesn't make any sense. And we're back in business.